Hi, this is John Bates, Range Ecologist at the Eastern Oregon Ag Research Center for the Oregon Ag Minute. This week I plan on updating some of the work being done to control or remove western juniper's influence on eastern Oregon rangelands. Many of you are probably familiar with efforts on private and public land to reduce juniper. The goals of juniper control are multifaceted and are designed to address both ecological and economic concerns, including restoration of historic plant communities, increasing forage production and quality, reducing soil erosion and increasing water capture on site, improving wildlife habitat, and increasing biological diversity. The main methods of juniper control employed in western juniper woodlands are mechanical cutting and fire. How, why, and when these methods are used depend on many factors, including what are the management objectives, the juniper woodland successional phase, and the condition of the understory. Today I will make an attempt at suggesting ways to select methods for controlling western juniper on Oregon's rangelands. When selecting methods, one place to start is to know the level of juniper dominance on the landscape. There are three phases of woodland succession, or level of dominance. In phase 1, trees are present, but shrubs, grasses, and other herbs are the dominant vegetation that influence ecological processes. In phase 2, trees are codominant with shrubs, grasses, and other herbs, and all three vegetation layers influence ecological processes. In both phase 1 and phase 2 woodlands, prescribed burning is often the cheapest method for treating large areas invaded by juniper. In phase 3 woodlands, trees are the dominant vegetation and the greatest influence on ecological processes. In phase 3, juniper competition has eliminated the shrubs and reduced understory production, making it all but impossible to prescribe burn these areas. These woodlands are typically treated by cutting or other mechanical methods, which tend to be expensive compared to fire. Today I'll relate some results from burning western juniper woodlands in its various invasive phases. Phase 1 and 2, or early and mid-successional woodland stages, are most easily burned, and if the understory was in good shape prior to the fire, it will return in great shape within 2 to 5 years. Phase 3 woodlands, or juniper-dominated areas, normally cannot be successfully burned because they lack ground fuels to carry the fire. Recently, however, combinations of cutting followed by early fall fire have been used to remove juniper in Phase 3 woodlands. Cutting a fifth to a third of the trees creates enough surface fuel to remove remaining live trees with follow-up fall burning. This method is cheaper than just cutting invading juniper. However, this treatment comes with some risk. Fire in Phase 3 woodlands has severe effects to understory grasses and other plants, and recovery will likely be slower than burning phase 1 or 2 woodlands. The severe effects impact grazing and wildlife values, may increase erosion temporarily, and has the potential to permit invasive weeds to take over these areas. Fire impacts in phase 3 woodlands act much like wildfire, and reseeding should be considered when planning fall burning in these woodlands. Today I'll relate some results when mechanically treating western juniper woodlands in its various invasive phases. One reason not to burn early and mid-successional woodlands, which we call phase 1 or phase 2 invasive stages, is that recovery of an area can be faster by just cutting the trees. There usually aren't as many trees at this stage, so cost per acre is potentially lower than cutting trees when juniper is dominating an area. For livestock operations, cutting phase 1 or 2 woodlands, this might not result in any interruption of grazing in the area, though rest or deferment after cutting should be considered if the understory is not in good shape. For wildlife, such as sage grouse and other species dependent on sagebrush, mechanical control will leave the shrubs intact and permit fast recovery of the area. Today I will provide some information on our long-term research evaluating mechanical control of late succession juniper woodlands, or as we call them, phase 3 woodlands. Mechanical control, such as cutting, leaves a lot of debris on site, which can be a fuel hazard and liability issue, makes moving around difficult, and may even promote weed increases. Recent efforts have shifted to removing juniper debris by burning in the late fall and winter to reduce potential fire hazards. Juniper debris burned when soils and groundlet are frozen or at field capacity in winter or early spring is effective at removing flashier fuels and appears to speed up recovery of the grasses and other plants. A drawback to burning cut trees in winter is that it takes a lot of man-hours to complete a job. Burning when soils are dry or in the spring when grass growth has started is not recommended, as